Hello and welcome to the Evercade Retreat. My name is Gene Joke and today I'm ranking and reviewing all the games from the Intellivision Collection Volume 2 for the Evercade. This is a collection that's been the butt of many jokes, particularly among the British fanbase of Evercade. I guess because, well, we didn't really get Intellivision over here, or at least I'd never heard of it as a kid, and I doubt very many UK-based gamers have ever played on Intellivision before getting this collection. If you saw my review video of the first collection, you know that I actually thought it was pretty good, not amazing, not for everyone's taste, but there was fun to be had in the sort of simple arcade gameplay. Not that they were arcade games, well, for the most part, but this is a very different collection. The games tend to be more in depth and require more setup. There's more use of the numerical pad, for example. But anyway, I'll get into that as I go through the games individually, which I might as well get rolling with. As always, these are ranked from least favourite to favourite.
Number 12
is Auto Racing. This is a top-down racing game that looks a bit like Super Sprint and things like that. The visuals do what they're supposed to do. The sounds are maybe functional, I suppose. They're not particularly great, but the sound wasn't an amazing thing on the Intellivision anyway. The gameplay itself, well, you race your car and essentially you automatically race. Think of it like a top-down endless runner. Only you're not dodging things, you're dodging the sides of the course, I suppose. You'll brake and navigate the course, and it's very basic, and I didn't find this fun at all. I think I'd rather have my scrotum put through a mincer and fed to gerbils. Number 11 is Motocross. This is an isometric racing game where you race on motorbikes. It's a motocross game, and I think it's technically quite impressive for its time. There's a course designer, there's a few different options, and like I said, technically it's quite an impressive game for the Intellivision, especially for when it came out. However, I do find it rather frustrating to play. I mean, isometric racing games aren't my favourite at the best of times, but when they're a bit slow and really hindered by the hardware they are developed for, despite being impressive for it, they're just not really that much fun to play anymore.
Number 10
is Stadium Mud Buggies, and almost everything I said for motocross applies here. Although this time you're going up hills in your mud buggies and racing against other ones and navigating the courses and maintaining your speed going up hills and things. You can see what they're going for, and perhaps in multiplayer you could have some fun with it. Playing it single player, I didn't have really any fun with it, although I admire what it's doing. Again, plenty of options, impressive for the hardware. Not my jam and hasn't aged all that good.
Number 9
is Super Pro Decathlon. It's a multi-sports game, much like your track and field and things like that. I don't think it's a particularly good one, and these aren't really my jam either. This might be better if you could play it better on the Evercade, but I find using the controller, it's hard enough to get up the speeds and things you need to play the game properly. Or maybe I just suck and I'm blaming my tools. Either way, I don't really like the game that much.
Number 8
is Vectron. It's a strange shooting-based strategy game of sorts. It takes you a while to work out what you've got to do, how you build your bases, and it's a weird game. I can't remember how to play it now, but when I played it, I worked it out, and I just wouldn't say it's actually fun. The gameplay loop is not really that enjoyable. It's interesting to experiment with a bit, and then you just get tired of doing it and can't be bothered anymore. Or at least that was my experience.
Number 7
is Starstrike. This is essentially a gamified version of the end of the first Star Wars movie, running against a space station, shooting enemies, avoiding the enemy fighter things, which clearly aren't TIE fighters, launch a bomb and destroy it at the end. And I think it looks quite impressive for the Intellivision, but actually playing the game, it just doesn't really feel that good to play, and timing things, like at the end, it just doesn't come together. I can imagine this could have been good, it just doesn't quite hit the mark. It's almost there, but ends up a bit frustrating.
Number 6
is Reversy, also known as Othello and whatever else. It's a fairly unexciting game, quite chill if you're in the mood for it, but it's not something I play very often, and there's not really anything to be impressed or excited about with this version. It's fine, I suppose.
Number 5
is Mountain Madness Super Pro Skiing. I know many might disagree with this, but I really don't like this game that much, but I admire what it's trying to do. It's a downhill skiing game, and that's the problem for me. I find controlling things going downhill like that, I just find it grating. It sort of, works on my last nerve and frustrates me. But the actual gameplay is kind of fun, or would be if I didn't have that barrier to enjoyment. There's about 30 odd courses, there's a course designer, there's plenty of options. It really is quite impressive for the Intellivision, and I see why a lot of people like it. but I just can't get past that, I'd say the barrier of enjoyment of skiing down a hill and doing the controls. It just doesn't work for me. My brain does not compute.
Number 4
is Sharpshots. This is a very basic game, one button control, shoot things, throw things, whatever, get a score. It is extremely basic, there's a few different events, but it can be a little bit compelling trying to get a high score on it and on these different events. There really isn't much to it, but I had more fun with it than the other games, so it got ranked higher than them.
Number 3
is Hover Force. This is a top-down helicopter sort of tactical shooter. You fly around tracking down your enemies, blowing them out of the sky and putting out fires with your water cannon. I think technically it's quite impressive for the Intellivision, and this really reminded me of something on the spectrum. Not so much a specific game, but there's a couple of games I played where they just gave me this feel, sort of a sense of freedom. The game is it's fairly simple, it is fairly linear really, but it felt quite open for the time, and I suppose it gave me a sense of nostalgia in that respect, or a familiarity perhaps. The controls take a little bit of getting used to, and really understanding what you're doing will take you a moment, or again, just have to pay attention rather than dive straight in trying to blast. But yeah, I found this quite enjoyable and interesting to play.
Number 2
is Cloudy Mountain. I understand this was originally a Dungeons & Dragons based game. Essentially you set out on your quest to recover the Crown of Kings. You navigate the overworld map, you have to collect items to either get arrows for ammo or collect various items to allow you to progress to other areas. It really doesn't look like much, and when you first play it you'll think, what the hell am I doing? Take a bit of time to read the manual and understand what you're doing, and you'll quickly find yourself having fun, or at least I did once I put the effort in. And to be honest, once you get to grips with the game, it's actually quite simple. It's just there's that little barrier to entry. There's a few difficulty levels which greatly increase the challenge. The maps are randomised, so it's a almost endlessly replayable game, and the higher difficulty levels really do get quite challenging. Given the nature of the game, this isn't going to be for everyone, and I think you'll probably have a good idea if this is the sort of thing you might enjoy. The same also applies to the next game, so might as well move on to
Number 1
which is Tower of Doom, also a Dungeons & Dragons based game, just with the D&D license removed. Although it shares a license with Cloudy Mountain and there are some vague similarities, it's a much more complex and ambitious game. Instead of traversing a large overworld map, you're essentially just ascending through levels in a tower. Of course, there are multiple towers to choose from, each varying in size, complexity and randomisation. There's also a whole bunch of characters to choose from who, quite naturally, range in different abilities and equipment. Being a more complex game than Cloudy Mountain, it is a little bit more clunky in places. Navigating your inventory and using items isn't as smooth as perhaps it could be. But given the age of the game when it came out, how ambitious it was for the hardware, it's a minor concern, even though it does cause the occasional annoyance. Learning to play this game really does require you to read the Evercade manual, or maybe finding a video guide online to help you get to grips with it. But if you like your roguelikes and a bit of dungeon crawling action, this will be right up your street, and you'll potentially be able to play this for hours, because there is so much randomisation, variety and different modes. Truly the highlight of the collection.
Overall opinions.
As I said at the beginning, this is quite a different cart from Intellivision Collection 1. There's very little in the way of arcade action here. The games are more complex, and well, that brings pros and cons. Naturally, much depends on your taste in games and your tolerance for dealing with the clunkiness of older games, I suppose similar to the home micro carts in some cases. Personally, I think it's totally worth buying just for Tower of Doom and Cloudy Mountain. If you happen to like any other games, that's just a bonus. But that aside, I can completely understand why this collection is the butt of so many jokes and why so many people have bounced off it hard. It doesn't make it easy, you have to put the effort in, and as to whether you'll get any reward from that, well, like I said, depends on your taste in games. If you have a distaste for old RPGs and roguelikes, and old racing games, no matter how ambitious, then this might be a collection to be avoided. To give the collection a score, I would have to give it a 6 out of 10. While not many of the games really do it for me, there is a decent amount of variety, covering a whole bunch of different tastes, and I can imagine others enjoying some of these games a lot more than I have. Anyway, I think that about covers it for this review, so as usual I'll leave you with a silly song based on one of the games, and I'll see you in the next video.
Through mist and fire, the journey starts, steel in hand, with hardened hearts. Rise or fall in the Tower of Doom. Shadows whisper, heroes loom. Blades will clash, the echoes cry. One last fight before we die. Rise or fall in the Tower of Doom. Shadows whisper, heroes loom. Blades will clash, the echoes cry. One last fight before we die. Through mist and fire, the journey ends. Scars and stories, wounds that mend. A legend told in dungeon gloom. Forever bound to Tower of Doom. Through mist and fire, the journey ends. Scars and stories, wounds that mend. A legend told